Hello everyone, my name is Oliver East and today I'm here to review Splendor Duel. This is the two-player spin-off of the very popular Splendor, where you are still claiming gems but against only the one opponent. Let's see how the game plays and then I'll come back and give you my thoughts on it. To start with, you're going to be placing this main board in the middle of the table and then filling it following this handy little track that's laid out. You're going to fill this board from the bag that's provided. And once you've done that, you will have a perfectly filled 5x5 grid. It's almost certainly the only time this is ever going to be completely full. Giving them a shuffle, you're going to place 3 of the level 3 cards out into the middle of the table. You're then going to place 4 of the level 2 cards into the middle of the table. And finally, you will put 5 of the level 1 cards into the middle of the table. One thing you'll notice in general is the level 1 cards have the cheapest costs to them, but often don't give points. In fact, only this one is currently offering a point. The second row steps it up a little bit with higher costs and medium points, and then the top row, the level 3s, have the highest cost with the highest points return. If you've played the original Splendor, you may notice these things and not know what they are, because they are new for Splendor Duel, as are these crowns, and we'll come on to those in a minute. Setup's nearly complete. There's just these 3 privilege tokens to put somewhere near the board, but one of them is going to get given to the second player. So whoever goes first sort of gives this to them as their sort of catch-up mechanism. So how does an average turn look? Well, first of all, you have the choice to use any or all of your privilege tokens. You don't have to, but if you've got one, you may want to use it. This allows you to trade it back in for any one tile that's not gold. So I could, for instance, take this pearl. Pearls are new and very useful, so I might want to take that. You can then choose to replenish the board, which would be filling from the bag any empty spaces. It's really not going to happen when the board's like this, but when it's much more empty, you might want to. When you go to refill the board, you start taking from the bag and start from the centre, and again, like setup, follow the pattern around the table. You fill as far as you can until the bag is empty, and then play carries on. The cost of doing that is giving one of these privilege tokens to your opponent. Those were the 2 optional actions that you could have taken on your turn in that order, and then you come on to the mandatory one. That is to take tiles that's not gold from the market, take a gold that's from the market and reserve a card. Note, you have to have a gold available in the market to do so, or purchase a card. Taking from the market is one of the most taken actions. And remember, you cannot take gold from the market. But how do you take the rest of the tokens? Either the gems of any colour or pearls. You're allowed to take up to 3 adjacent gems or pearl tokens. They must be in an uninterrupted horizontal, vertical or diagonal line. You are perfectly able to just take 2 adjacent ones, or even a single token if you wish. There's a quick reminder at the top of the board, or bottom depending on how you're sat. If you ever take 2 pearls on a single turn or 3 gems of the same colour, so let's say it's like this and you take these 3 blues, then you give one of those privilege tokens to your opponent. When you're reserving a card, like I said, you must be able to take a gold from the market. It could be any of the ones available, and you then choose any of the face-up cards, or you can draw from the top of the 3 decks. You can't have more than 3 cards reserved, so let's put that into our hand. It's going face down because we've not yet bought it. And then the gold comes into our possession. When you take a card from the market for any reason, be it reserving or for purchasing, it's going to be replaced from the relevant deck. When you have acquired some gems, it's time to buy your first jewel card. For instance, if we are buying this card, it requires 2 blue, 2 green, and 1 pearl. Well, we have these 2 blues, so we can put those into the bag. We can treat gold as any wild resource, so it's another green. And then we have the pearl. This is then played in front of us, and for the rest of the game, we also have a white gem to spend, effectively reducing the cost of any card by 1 gem. If a card you buy has a symbol, it activates. This sort of arrow symbol means you get another turn. If it has this hand symbol, it means you get to steal a gem or a pearl, but not gold, from your opponent. The privileged scroll is fairly intuitive. It means you get one if it's available from the middle, and if it's not, you take one from your opponent. Some cards have this symbol. This means you can take a, in this case, black gemstone from the market, as well as getting this card. If there's not one though, it's just ignored. Finally, there is this symbol, and it's kind of just there to remind you that when you play this card, you have to play it on top of a card you've already got purchased, and it basically becomes that gem type, reducing future cards by that cost. So if these were my 2 played cards, the ones I previously purchased, I could play it here and it would become a second white, or here and it would become a second black gemstone for moving forward. Some cards have these crowns on them. These don't do much on their own, but are a victory condition, and when you have 3 or 6, trigger something special. There are 4 of these royal cards in the game. When you get 3 crowns, you choose any one that's available still in the market. And these do have those sort of nice symbols on them, with this one giving you more points, but not having a special ability. When you get to 6 of those crowns, you get to take a second one. At the end of your turn, you check how many tokens you've got in front of you. If you've got more than 10, you have to discard any extra, it's your choice of what, back into the bag. Play goes back and forward until one player hits one of the 3 victory conditions. The first player to get to 20 points on any of their cards. So for instance, this card here would get you part of the way, 1 point. The second victory condition is to have 10 crowns on any of your cards. Remembering, you've also got 2 royals en route, maybe helping you along. The third way is to get 10 points within a single colour. It's not as easy, but it is certainly doable. And that's how to play Splendor Duel. Let's start off with the production quality, which is pretty high to be honest, although with the smaller box do come smaller components compared to the original Splendor if you've played that. The poker chips that come in this are shrunk down, but they are still very nice to sort of play around with. They make a nice noise as they hit the table. It's quite sort of satisfying. It's very easy to tell them apart by their colour. It's very easy to then know that's gold, so I can't take that on my turn. That's a pearl. They're going to be useful because you can't get pearl bonus cards or cards that sort of make it a pearl cheaper. They don't exist. So overall, the production quality is strong. You've got the nice sort of bag to put the tokens in. You cannot see through this, so you don't know what you're pulling when you're refreshing the market. These are all scrolls. They're called privilege. We just call them scrolls because they're scrolls. Very nice sort of 3D shape that they've made there. The cards, again, very nice, really easy to read, easy to shuffle, even though they are small cards, not sort of the big sort of normal deck of playing card sized cards, whatever you refer to that as. So overall, the production quality, I'd say they've done a really good job. It fits nicely into the box, which leads me into my first plus point on Splendor Duel, and that is it's so much more portable than the original. Yes, you've got only for 2 players, but the box isn't inflated. It is sort of nicely tucked in with the insert into this box. There's not too much air left in it, so you can grab this box, take it with you, and yeah, you've got a game that needs a bit of table space, but it is very easy to take it out in your bag or whatever. More importantly than portability, of course, though, is the gameplay. Is it going to be good if you can take it everywhere with you? So the big change from Splendor is the central board where you're taking the gems or gold from, or pearls. Pearls are also new, so let's touch on the board and then sort of that addition. This board makes it some interesting choices. When you want to refill this board, it gives your opponent an advantage of one of these scrolls. They can take a token for free, but you are potentially opening up yourself many more options, because as this board gets reduced and sort of shrunk down, all of a sudden there's not too many choices. There's certainly not many places where you could take 3 tiles on one turn. And taking just 1 tile, well, it can back your opponent into the corner to refill the board, but it also can feel like a lackluster turn, because, well, if I just take this 1 red, if I'd refilled the board, I'd probably get 2 other tokens with it. So there's a really nice sort of choice dynamic there of, I'm going to be helping you, my only and direct opponent, by giving you one of these, so you get a free token, but it's helping me as well. And that's what this is all about, this jewel of splendorness. It's all about taking those opportunities where you can, or not giving those opportunities when you don't want to. Okay, I'm only going to get 2 tokens because the board's got gaps. I think it's probably worth it to not give my opponent an advantage, and then maybe they have to refill, and maybe they're not looking for the colour of gemstone that I am right now. Now, the other new part of the game, apart from the scrolls and the board, that's the pearls. Now, they are a little frustrating, but I think in a good way. There can be times when there's only 1 pearl available on the board after it's been refilled, and that normally gets snapped up pretty quickly because there's quite a lot of the cards needing at least 1 pearl to be made. But there's none of those cards offer a discount on pearls, which means you are always after them. In the original Splendor, you can build up an engine of cards and almost at a certain point just be able to take for free from that sort of central market of cards. You can't do that anymore, at least not consistently. Because, yeah, you could maybe take a few of the cards from the market, but that one needs a pearl. Oh, so does that one. And it just means that you're always, throughout the game, having to interact in some way with this market, either to get pearls or to get gold that then is wild and can represent a pearl. But reserving a card to get a gold just to be a pearl, it feels like that's a lesser turn. So again, it comes back to the choices of when you refill that market, when you're taking things. It's got a lot of good choices, and it's at the end of the game, it's your choices that have either won it for you or maybe just given your opponent that edge that's allowed them to. Now, one thing that the game has as sort of a, try to balance things out are on this board, they've got the reminders of if you take 3 tokens of the same colour or 2 pearls from this board on a turn, you give a prestige scroll to your opponent. Certainly with the pearls, it seems that because they're so needed, yes, you do that, but it just doesn't happen. It can happen, but in all the games we've played of this, it's happened like once on 1 market refresh. And it just means that I like that it's there, because if you take 3 of one colour, it's not really going to be available much in the market. If you take both pearls, your opponent's probably going to have to take gold to get a pearl, at least for a while. But it just doesn't happen as regularly as I thought it would from when I was reading the rules and going through the game. It was like, well, that's clearly being pointed out as a caveat. It's being reminded to me on the board. It just doesn't happen as often as I thought. Another great inclusion in the box is the reminding tile of the 3 different win conditions, and the fact that you can strive for these 3 different win conditions, and part way through the game pivot for one or the other. Going for 20 points is seemingly predominantly the way the game is won, at least when you're playing with newer people, because they see the points on the tiles and go on the cards, sorry, and go, yeah, that's a clear route to victory, and I can spread out a little bit. Getting the 10 points on one colour, it feels like it may be slightly more luck dependent of what's coming out of those decks. Maybe you've got some points in the red gems. You need more of those cards to come out the deck for you to be able to do that. So therefore you start going, okay, well maybe I'll get some green and blue, and then even if other reds come out, you may be closer to that 20 points overall. And the third one, which is a really interesting one, is that crown victory. It's almost, you have to sort of somewhat go into the game going, I'm going to go for crowns here, because not many of the cards in the decks have crowns. They're more sort of common on the level 3 and level 2 decks, at least that's what it feels like. You certainly level 3 you can get 2 or 3 crowns on some of those cards, and you're getting that benefit partway along of those royal cards. Royal cards are giving you a quick bonus of maybe an extra gem or another turn or points, and then it's like, those points are helping me not towards more crowns but towards maybe the overall 20 points needed to win the game. So there's a bit of a muddle of, doesn't matter too much what you're doing, you're at least always chipping towards that 20 points, but there are times where you go, okay, I could pivot here, I only need another 4 crowns, well I can see at least 2 on a card in the market, so if I reserve that, I could maybe clinch victory early by getting that card down. So it just feels like you've always at least gone towards a victory condition and got part way. So you never truly feel like you've been wiped the floor with. Even if you set out going, I'm going to go for crowns, you will have got some points. You might not have got many points, but at least you'll have felt a bit of progression towards a victory condition. And again, there's that nice twist of, alright, maybe I do pivot for crowns or points in just one colour. So it's not always going to end on those 20-point victories. Much like in the original Splendor with its sort of small selection of noble tiles, I kind of wish that there were more royal cards included in Splendor Duel. Not so much because that needs a variety of additional powers, but it would be interesting to see if one game would go slightly differently, if 2 of the 4 actually were those 3-point scoring royal cards, rather than only one of them. It would mean that the games felt a little bit different. Obviously, the decks are big enough that what's coming out of them is different each game, pretty much. You know, certainly a different combination, different order. But I wish the royals, there was just 1 maybe extra, 2 extra that you could shuffle in and out. I just think that would add a touch more variety to the game. If you liked the original game, the engine building part of it, I think you will enjoy Splendor Duel, although you can't sort of build a fully perfect engine to get lots of free cards because of those pearls. And as a core section, this board, this marketplace, it is such a thing that the whole game revolves around what's available in it, what's not available in it, and when to refresh. It's just, it ties everything together with choices left, right and centre. However, if you didn't like the original, it's probably not going to change your mind. Thankfully, I enjoyed the original and I really enjoyed this one as well. I definitely recommend it and I'd give it 8 out of 10. That is Splendor Duel. Let me know if you've played it and what you think of it in the comment section below. And until next time, check out other reviews on the Dice Tower.